welcome back to Salmon's Pizzeria. We're back for a Christmas special for the Championship Penitentiary. Yes, we are allowed to celebrate Christmas here. For this festive season, I am joined by, of course, my good friend Kieran Ashton. How are you, Kieran?
I am not bad. Delighted to be on. Absolute pleasure, nonetheless. First of all, hope everybody has a good Christmas and all that good stuff, all that cheesy stuff. Let's just get that out of the way before we talk about a very boring, well, not boring, you could say eventful 0-0, say the least. But as well as that, we're on to talk about a rarity, Queen's Park winning. So we've had
I,
to drag Enzo on for that. But
I,
The Christmas joy is being is being spread to Queens Park fans, isn't it, Enzo?
well, it will be if we beat Thistle next week as well. No, listen, you don't need to get the digs in quite so early, right? You get plenty of opportunities for that every week when we don't win. But yes, it was fun. I enjoyed beating Airdrie. I generally speaking do enjoy beating Airdrie, so I'm looking forward to getting into a wee bit more detail about how that happened.
And as it is such a rare occurrence, only the third time it's happened this season, and what the fifth time in 2025, something ridiculous like that. We are, of course, going to start off with Airdrie against Queens Park. Airdrie, they won their last four games in all competitions, and as mentioned, Queens Park looking for their third league win of the season. Enzo, please take us away.
um, I mean, ultimately, it was quite emphatic, wasn't it? 3-0's a pretty. I don't think the scoreline was necessarily unfair or anything like that. I think I'll probably start off, obviously, by talking a wee bit about Airdrie, to be honest with you, because as you say, they had been on really good form. They'd won three league games and one Challenge Cup game, possibly, four in a row, and that was kind of the breakdown of it. Going into it, I wasn't really sure what to expect. We don't necessarily have the best record against Airdrie in general, certainly not through in Airdrie anyway. We do have a bit of a long history of both teams drawing games 0-0 or more frequently 1-0. And I think Airdrie, do you know what? I don't think they necessarily played badly, and they certainly had their chances. Their game plan from the get go was to play very very aggressively, and it was interesting because any Airdrie fan that I spoke to before the game was saying the first team that scores is going to win, and I don't know if that's basically been pretty reflective of what they've been doing this season, where they've been able to go out, get the first goal, and just kind of maintain that pressure on the opposition, who've then struggled to come back into the game. And I felt as though that's what they were trying to do. They played very, very aggressively from the start, possibly possibly a bit too dangerously for my liking. If I were an Airdrie fan, it was just a wee bit too much. But you know what? They came close-ish once or twice. Um, but it wasn't to be. And obviously, Josh Fowler was able to put his 1-0 up before half time, which is obviously exactly what you want. A wee comment on something else that happened in that first half as well. The Airdrie PA system spent about 5 minutes saying that it was an emergency and that everyone had to vacate the stadium. The game carried on anyway. Nothing happened. Nobody left. Then eventually it ended up stopping. We were all sitting there going, "What should we leave? Like the players haven't stopped playing." I think I saw somebody from security go down and say to the referee, "Look, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It'll go off in a minute." So I'm assuming somebody in an office somewhere has pressed the wrong button, and that's how that ended up happening. But yeah, we went in at halftime 1-0 up, and I have to be honest with you, I don't really have all that much faith in us to hold on to a lead, and that's why I wasn't quite as confident about the first goal being as important as some of the Airdrie fans were suggesting. But ultimately, it did prove that ultimately it was. It was vital. And Airdrie kept coming at us even when they were 1-0 down, and then subsequently 2-0 down. They kept playing with this really kind of quite high line, quite fast pace, really aggressive, really going for it. But it didn't work for them on the day, and then shortly after half time, we went 2-0 up. Josh Fowler once again, his I believe 17th goal in 20 games in all competitions for us this season, which is pretty ridiculous. He's an outrageously good footballer. We're very very lucky to have him. And shortly afterwards, Henry Fieldson, who by the way scored his first ever goal for the club last week against Dunfermline. Yeah, it would have been last week against Dunfermline. He put his 3-0 up. So he scored 2 in 2 weeks as well. Not bad for a 19-year-old left back, who, by the way, has been really, really solid for us anyway. And I think I was quite complimentary about him last week. He had another really good performance. And I think, from my perspective, what I think is quite encouraging, I would say, is that our kind of front quartet seems to be coming to life a wee bit. They seem to be clicking a wee bit. And when I say that front quartet, I'm specifically referring to obviously Josh Fowler, Aidan Conley, Grant Savoury, and Seb Drozd. And that is a good, that is 4 really, really solid attacking players. Fowler's obviously going to score loads and loads of goals. Conley is, I think, getting better and better for us, and he's especially good even when we do lose the ball and we turn it over. He's been brilliant defensively, but even going forward, he's starting to. You can see that he's starting to add more from that kind of attacking perspective as well, which is what we all know that Aidan Conley absolutely can do. Seb Draws is improving as well. He set up both of Josh Fowler's goals on Saturday. He put the ball in. They were both kind of similar in a way, but he put both balls in for that, which was great. And Grant Savoury obviously had massive injury issues over the past couple of years. But he's really, really coming into it a wee bit more now as well, because we all know he's a very, very capable footballer. He's a brilliant. The season we nearly won the league, he was arguably one. I mean, he definitely was one of our most important players. He absolutely was. So if you can even come back to about kind of 70-80% of what he's capable of, as I say, the 4 of them can do some damage. It's just about whether the midfield can stand up to it, because that's probably where we are. I think that's probably where our real sort of weaknesses lie. Be interesting to see how Airdrie bounce back from this though, because I know that we've talked about it before. Obviously, Aaron Taylor Sinclair has done a solid enough job in his intern position at the club. Just a
And
little
it's still interim, by the way.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange that he hasn't taken the job permanently yet, or he's not been off. But either he's not been offered it, or he's not accepted it. And I think I'd be slightly concerned about that from an Airdrie perspective. But obviously, he did go in that really decent run of form when he initially came in. Is ultimately quite a comfortable loss. Is that going to set them back a wee bit? Because obviously we've now. I mean, that did wonders for our goal difference as well, beating them 3-0, because we were kind of 1 goal behind them or something, and that's put a wee bit of daylight there in between us from a goal difference perspective. Off the both that we played, and I don't think they were bad. I think Sean Crichton just knew exactly how Taylor Sinclair was going to set them up, and we set up to counter that, and it worked. It worked perfectly, and it was a really, really satisfying performance because. As you say, we don't win too many games these days. So to win one quite comfortably like that, it's been a while since we've won. We've gone ahead and just held on to win comfortably. I think the last time we did that was when we beat Wraith 4-1. Obviously,
I was 4-0. I was going to say, it's like the last
oh
time
no, sorry,
we
yeah,
won a league game by more than two or more goals was against us back in March.
it was, yeah. There you go. Aye. So to do that, it felt really good. As I say, I think certain things are clicking. I've got a lot of, I'm really very much still on the Sean Crichton bandwagon. I'm really, really pleased that he's the guy we've got leading our club at the minute. Talks such a good game, and I think there's a, despite the fact that it has been a tough season so far, and we expected it would be. It seems as though there's a really, really good team spirit in there as well. The guys absolutely haven't given up, and we'll see how we get on. The next few weeks, though, are going to be quite challenging because we've got some difficult games coming up. And so do Airdrie, and so does everyone, because there's only 10 teams in the league, so they come around thick and fast.
As you were saying about how Airdrie might come off of this, it's like the last time they lost a game like that was, funny enough, it was 3-0, but it was against St Johnstone, and they followed that up with a draw against Partick and then beating us 3-0. So it's not like it's alien to them getting beat like this, but under ATS especially. But it is.
I think there's a difference between losing 3-0 to St Johnstone and losing 3-0 to us. And I don't mean that
in the best way possible, yes.
But yeah, of course, because they were getting into that game on Saturday feeling like they were favourites the way they were playing. So for it to be so anticlimactic for them, they're gonna have to kind of readjust their mindset a wee bit getting into the game next week.
It's like when you consider St Johnstone top of the league, whereas it's like this is really like a sort of Christmas 6-pointer, arguably, when it comes to that sort of end of the table. You are right in saying it is very much a different scenario, but It will be interesting. It's like Edry, they have Arbroath away next, and we've said before about how it's like Arbroath have only lost, I think it's like twice at home all calendar year. It's good luck getting a win there.
Yeah.
But Kieran, your thoughts on this one?
I think what's pretty much what there is to be said has been said pretty much. I think just Josh Fowler, he's an absolute star boy. Like, I know you've kind of had a bit of a tough season so far, Enzo, but watching him play football week in, week out must be an absolute joy.
He's just
It looks like
he's just so talented. Like,
yeah.
It's like see when he picks up the ball in the box. If he picks up the ball anywhere in the box, it's almost as if he's playing in slow motion. Like, he's got so much time to turn and figure out where he's going to place it in the net. And he's, I think, in all competitions, I think he's the highest scorer in Scotland across all the leagues so far this season. And I didn't have. I mean, my expectations were that Fowler would be the kind of guy that came off the bench towards the end of games, and Michael Ruth came in to be our kind of main man up front. Unfortunately, picked up an injury really early on at the season. We've got him to come back hopefully in January as well. I mean, I was hopeful because his goal scoring record when he played for Beath was ridiculous. But we've seen it before when we've had guys come from that level, and it's not necessarily it's a difficult transition. But he looks as though he's been playing at this level for years. And to be honest with you, he won't be playing at it for much longer because whether it's in January or at the end of the season, I think he'll be playing, if not in the Premiership here, maybe kind of lower leagues down south, just depending on what he fancies doing. But he won't be short of suitors because the boy's absolutely class.
Uncle Roy is watching.
We'll see. Hopefully not.
I think if Queen's Park selling him January, I think it'd be an absolute daft decision, to be honest.
I'm cautiously optimistic that it won't happen. Yeah, I mean, we also saw Dom Thomas in January last year too. I'm kind of cautiously optimistic that it won't happen. Just based on the finances of it make no sense because he's out of contract at the end of the season. If I'm a club looking at him, I'm offering him a really, really healthy pre-contract to entice him to come to me. From like a Queen's perspective, if you're going to sell this guy in January, the sale needs to be worth relegation and a year in League One instead of the Championship. And a year in the Championship means potentially higher attendances, starting in cups later, so potentially more cup money, higher prize money just from being in the division. So there's it would just be a complete insanity. So fingers crossed.
We've got to make a joke about higher attendances though, but
it won't be significant. Well, you can charge a wee bit more in the Championship as well. So
higher attendances by about 10.
That's not the point.
But it's also an important result because that actually puts Queens now above Airdrie on goal difference. Now Airdrie
the game in hand.
In ninth, with the game in hand, of course, against Ross County, who we will get onto later because it just keeps getting worse for them. Speaking of things getting worse for other teams, we move on to St Johnstone against Morton. Saints coming off an incredible comeback away win at United. Morton, meanwhile, are dealing with Billy Davies or Gary Miller or whoever is the interim manager. I have no idea at this point anymore. I think Billy Davies is listed as head technical coach or something daft like that.
Yeah.
It's just Morton. It's just Morton. That's what it is. But the league's top scorer, Josh Peake, would strike from outside the box to give the Saints the lead after just 12 minutes. Stanton would double lead 10 minutes later with a second low cross. It's sort of like crossed in, came back out, and then went straight back in, and then Stanton's left pokes it into the roof of the net. Sidibe manages to dispossess a Morton defender for about 30 yards out, runs down the wing, cuts it back in. Jamie Gollinsler makes it 3 just before half time. Gullen would get his second and St Johnstone's fourth with a goal of the season contender, a 30-yard free kick going right in that top corner. And then 5 minutes later, Forrester across the ball into Sidibe, who heads it home to make it 5-0 St Johnstone. We have probably said this before, but maybe Saints are back it seems like Seymour's got them firing again. And it's like with other results, they've got a cushion again at the top of the league. Maybe not quite run away with it like we thought they were, but seem a bit more comfortable.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a point a few weeks ago where I think St Johnstone fans were starting to, at least some of them were losing a wee bit of faith in Valakari's ability to get a wee bit of a tune out of them. But it seemed to sort of click at half time that air game when they came back to win it, and now they do seem to be on form again. Now, by all accounts, I mean, based on what I've seen as well, Morton were absolutely horrendous on Saturday. So, yes, fair play to St Johnstone, but what was that? Like, Morton just looked utterly stinking. It was wild. Probably one of the worst performances across the league so far this season.
And
I don't even think I don't even think St Johnstone had to get I don't think even had to get a third gear to even beat them 5-0. That's how bad it was. It was just very comfortable win. And Morton didn't. I don't even think they had a shot on target the entire game. It was really, really poor. I don't know if that's a testament to how good St Johnstone are, but I mean, you've got to at least threaten them, especially going away, but going away from home, way up to McDermott Park. But it's really poor. And they need to get a proper manager in. Just as you said, as you were talking about there, Callum, they need to get a proper manager in as soon as possible, or else they're dragged right down into that dogfight, because Airdrie will start probably picking points up again. Queen's Park, obviously, they'll start picking up points. Fuck knows what Ross County will do, mind you, but
Ross County, maybe not.
Yeah, but they're in real danger of getting sucked right back into that pure proper dogfight down the bottom. So, it's not looking good for them at all at the moment.
It's like we were saying very often in like the first 10 games, it's like they weren't managing to get wins, but they were drawing games, and that's better than losing games. And it seems to be like doing injuries are one thing, keeping that team from being dragged into these sort of battles, and it's really starting to show now because that team, it just on paper it does not look good. And as the last few performances, it's like the game against Airdrie, they actually looked all right. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And then there's this one where they just were absolutely battered all over the place. And it is really it's getting concerning now. Morton now with the second worst attack in the league. The only one worse than them is Airdrie, but then when you look at how Airdrie started, it's not looking so good for them. But it's like Saints fantastic again against Morton. I think when they last played at Capillo, I think it was 4-0 at halftime or something daft like that. And it's like this Morton team. They're very much gonna get dragged into this fight, especially. We're going to go back to the media duties of Billy Davies again, because he was happy enough to do the pre-match, but then the post-match, he left it to Gary Miller. I've got no idea what Gary Miller's role is, but he was the
So I
one
think
doing
wasn't Gary Miller announced as being the actual interim manager now?
I have no idea anymore.
I'm pretty sure.
Morton did put out a statement, didn't they?
I'm fairly certain. So he is now officially the interim manager, and Billy Davies has returned to his role as technical coach or whatever nonsense title that he had before. But yeah, it seems like they don't really know. I don't know. It just seems a little bit weird that they haven't. I mean, there haven't even been any rumors about what they're going to do, and it's not as though Doug Emery only just left the other day. He's been gone for a few weeks now, and I would have thought that they would. You know what it's like. The Daily Record likes to say such and such has been linked to Morton, and there are a few guys out of contract here and there that might be okay options. So yeah, it seems as though they're either being very methodical and wanting to get the best person they possibly can, or they haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing. And I'm leaning towards believing it's probably the latter of those two options.
Yeah, this is Green and Morton we're talking about. If it's the bizarre option, then they're going for that one.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's really much more to say on that one. So we'll move on to Dunfermline against Ayr. Dunfermline only one win in their last 4, with that being at home to Queen herself in the Scottish Cup. Ayr, meanwhile, only one win in the last 8 league games, surprisingly, which is mental when you consider they are 4th. That is, of course, including their collapse against St Johnstone last week. But 5 minutes in, Mark McKenzie would find himself through the box somehow to slot home an opening goal for the visitors. 20 minutes later, Anton Dowds. Now, this is one of the most ridiculous goals I have seen, because the Ayr player takes a shot from the edge of the box and the ball just like flies up in the air. And it's coming towards Anton Dowds. He's on like the edge of like the 6-yard box. And there's a Dunfermline defender sort of behind him to the left, like a yard or two behind, and he just stands there. The goalkeeper, again, also just stands there, and no one goes to him. No one like tries to win the ball. And Anton Dowds is just given all the time in the world to just hit it home. It is one of the. It's like I couldn't believe what I was witnessing when I'd seen it. I was. It was just ridiculous. Ridiculous defending. Leon King would score to make it 3-0 from a corner. Again, the goalkeeper comes flying out, misses the ball, falls to King, who just smashes it home. So, right, 3-0 at halftime to Ayr, which brought great delight to me. And, of course, the travelling Ayr support. But Kieran Enzo in the second half had scored twice in 3 minutes. He scored in the 62nd minute. Just ball comes in and he's there at the back post. His second one being a volley from the edge of the box after Ayr failed to clear a corner. Despite seeming like they could do it again, Ayr did not collapse and actually hold on for 3 points for once. But this was, Dunfermline are in a rut, which is perfect for me considering next week. But yours, Enzo, your thoughts on this one?
Obviously, right. It was a decent attempt at a comeback in the second half from the Pars. They almost got something out of it. But when you go 3-0 down in the first half, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And they looked incredibly soft. They just looked really, really, from the highlights anyway, as you like the goal that you highlighted. But I don't think it was just that goal. I think it was the entire first half in particular. They just looked really, really easy to play against, almost as if. I mean, I would never accuse them of, because they've got a young, hard-working team, but they almost looked as though they didn't care. And that I know that's not the case, but it did. They were just lacking a wee bit of fight about them, which surprised me, because I think that's one thing you can really actually accuse a team of, is that. And I don't know where that came from, if I'm honest with you, because Ayr haven't been. I mean, they draw almost as. Actually, they might even draw more games than we do, and we draw far too many games. So, but then from an Ayr perspective as well, like, is there any concern about the fact that you have gone 3-0 the first half, and you've contrived to almost chuck away 2 points anyway? I mean, they didn't. They managed to hang on, right? But for a fan base that's already a wee bit that's already questioning their manager a wee bit, I suppose, and his inflexibility at times. There's got to be some concerns about that too. So it's one of those ones where Ayr came out of it probably just more relieved to hang on, if anything. I mean, if I'm watching my team 3-0 off at half time, I'm hoping to see 5 or 6. And they did see 5, but it was Dunfermline that scored the other 2. So a really kind of strange game of football.
It is definitely concerning, especially when you consider what happened the week prior. It's like you would think, okay, we're 3-0 up at halftime this time. Surely we won't throw this away. Why are we throwing this away? But Kieran, your thoughts on this one?
I pretty much echoing what both of you have said. First off, I think Dunfermline couldn't keep Wayne's out of close in that first half. Defending for, I think, at least 2 of the 3 goals were shocking, especially the one you highlighted there, Callum. Like, my head would be in Mars if Thistle conceded a goal like that. So that's it's just inexcusable, really, to be honest, and especially I think it was like within 25 minutes, so a 3-0 down. I think, it's not good. And then on the flip side of that, I think watching the second half, Dunfermline came flying out the traps a wee bit, and it was all pretty much Dunfermline in the second half, and they had you could definitely say they had it on the ropes, and if you're near fan watching that, you're almost, as you said, Enzo, almost concerned that you've nearly pretty much chucked the 2 points after having such an early cushion and a free goal cushion in the first half. Nonetheless, I mean, still a good result for Ayr on the road away up to East End back, which is never an easy place to go to. Good result for them after their bottling last week at home to East Johnstone. But there's still concerns there for both teams. You know what I mean? But Dunfermline, as you said, Callum, they are in a bit of a rut now. Whether or not they come out of that, you'll be wishing they don't come out of it in time for the derby next week. But they'll be looking to bounce back straight away, especially if they've got aspirations of trying to push for the playoffs.
I do. I was just very quickly, Callum. Sorry, I do think there might have been a foul on the Ayr goalie for the second Dunfermline goal. By the way they kind of, there was a bit of a coming together there, and I think the referees maybe missed one. So maybe 3-1 wouldn't have felt quite as bad from an Ayr perspective. But they're two of the most interesting teams in the league for me, because it's two fan bases that probably have, rightly or wrongly, I'm not commenting on whether they should have higher aspirations, but the two fan bases that probably did expect a little bit more from this season, and both of them, they've kind of, I mean, neither of them are realistically probably going to be in any danger of sliding down the league too much. Dunfermline, if they're not careful, might do, but that's going to be relying on at least another 3 or 4 teams picking up a lot more points than what they have been, so it's probably unrealistic. But if Ayr aren't careful, they could, if Ayr weren't to finish in the top 4, that would be an absolute disaster, and I don't think Scott Brown would survive that.
Yeah, I was just going to make a point about Dunfermline. It's the fact it's like this rut is, it's like, so it's like they lost to Partick Thistle, but then they beat Queen herself. But then after that, they obviously had Neil Lennon get banned for 6 games, and since his ban, they went 1-0 up against Arbroath, but ended up losing 2-1. They did come back to draw against Queen's Park 1-0. They lost 4-3 to Queen herself in the Challenge Cup, but you can caveat that being the Challenge Cup. And then, of course, there's this 3-2 defeat to Ayr. I don't think he comes back until the game against Morton, so Neil Lennon's missing the derby. And
I was sure I read that he'd be back for the derby, but maybe I misunderstood that. I'm sure I read that
he's suspended for the derby, definitely. Okay, I know that. I'm not sure if he's back for either Ross County or Greenock Morton away.
Okay.
But it does seem to be a case of, if Lennon was on the touchline screaming at them, maybe they're not in this sort of situation. But it's like these two sides have just been ridiculously inconsistent all season, and it's like we're seeing it. It's like sometimes it's like 1 week. It's not even a case of one game they're good, the next game they're bad. It's a case of one half they're good, the next half they're terrible. It's incredible levels of inconsistency, if anything. But it's like you say, it's with other teams, it's like Wraith and Embry, who we'll get onto in a minute. It's like really turning form around. It's going to provide a challenge for them, for both sides, to keep the top 4, especially with Arbroath still coming along, doing quite well. But speaking of, Arbroath were away to Ross County. County very much in trouble. Go into this game managerless after sackings of Tony Dock and Callum Davidson after last week's 6-0 loss at Starks. Arbroath, meanwhile, won their last 4 and are unbeaten in 6. I would like to talk about this game in detail, but there are no highlights available. Still, I looked in the middle of this recording, like 2 minutes ago, I looked and there is still nothing from either club channels. Now, Arbroath, I can give them a pass. They are a part-time team. They've just come up from League One. It's like they're not exactly going to have the most incredible media package or whatever. Ross County are a team that has just come down from the Premiership. You have no excuse. And for that, and for ruining this podcast this week, I hope you get relegated. But from what I can tell you, Jacob McIntyre scored the opening goal 33 minutes in, with the only goal that I can talk about being Taylor Stevens scoring a pretty good goal, edge of the box, curls it into the corner. That was 83rd minute, and that gave all 3 points to Arbroath. Once again, Arbroath very much in control of that third place spot. They're now 5 points clear of Erin. They're actually only 4 points off of Partick Thistle, which pretty impressive going into Christmas. I think they're only a couple of points off of their total points from the last time they were in the league. I think it was about... Actually, I think it was less than 30 points. I'll check in a minute, but your thoughts on Arbroath, Kieran?
I think they're there on merit. That they're not in the position they are by accident. You know what I mean? They're there. You can talk about they had the minus goal difference, despite being third and all that kind of palaver. But I think they're a pretty well drilled outfit, and I think I've been saying that for quite a while now. I remember, not even talking about the when they beat us at Gayfield a couple of weeks ago now, or last week, I should say. When they played us at Firhill, they were probably the better side. They probably deserved all 3 points. Obviously, they walked away with a draw in the end up. But yeah, I think the management have got there as well. Is a pretty good management as well. Is it Hamilton and Gold? I think it's the two managers. It's a co-management kind of thing they've got going on. I think they're doing well. Again, Gayfield at this time of year isn't going to be an easy place to go to as well, and I think they've got players as well that know how to use that to their advantage. So I think that's a skill in itself. I don't think anybody else has quite managed to master that. Unlike Arbroath, so that's good as well. But nonetheless, they're pretty much. It's a good win for them again. It's Dingwall's. You can talk about how straight Ross County are, but it's still a tough place to go to, especially during this time of year as well. But they continue to impress. But County are still utter dung, aren't they? They're still really, really bad, and well, you're trying to see an end of that light at the end of the tunnel for them. Is that the January transfer window? Maybe, but again, I don't think I've got faith in them. Even I don't know. Honestly, I don't know where to go for. Talking about County, to be honest, but again, for a broad point of view, I think certainly talking as a Thistle fan, we had that right cushion. Now they're starting to kind of look behind their shoulder a wee bit now. They're now starting to snap at us, snap at our ankles. That's them now 4 points, as you said, behind us. It's not only good for us, so to speak, but from our Arbroath point of view, that absolutely not even snapped one hand. You'd have snapped both hands and 2 legs off for the position they're in at the moment. If you're an Arbroath fan, but really good for them nonetheless.
So I should probably have said something sooner, but there are actually highlights available from this game. On the the SPFL do like a roundup where they've got the highlights of all the games. There are actually highlights of this game available. So I have seen the highlights. So maybe I can give you a little bit more of an overview than what you were able to.
Taking over hosting duties now.
I
resign.
You're very welcome to go and watch it, I suppose, while we're talking about it. But it's just basically more of the same from Ross County, to be honest. They're slow. They lack any real purpose when they're in possession. And Declan Gallagher, especially for the second goal, somebody just needs to take him out the back and shoot him, man. He's done. And I wonder if at this point, it's just like they're going through the motions because a few of these guys know they're probably going to get turned over and sent packing in January. They know that County are likely to spend a wee bit of cash bringing replacements and they'll be relegated to the bench. But from what I saw from 2 minutes of highlights or whatever it was, 3 minutes of highlights maybe, it was another well-deserved win. I mean, yes, you have kind of focused on how bad Ross County were, and they deserve as much criticism for that as possible. I wonder, John Robertson, by the way, at this point, like, is there much he can actually do about it? Because he was initially assistant manager, and then he was relegated to being, I don't know, the water boy for Davidson and Tony Dock, and now
No,
he's
he
had
was
to
listed
step
as
up.
an assistant as well.
Oh, was he? Right, okay.
Yeah.
Assistant to the assistant manager, is that what he was before?
Maybe.
It's just a bit of a weird situation. But yeah, they're rubbish. And I've finally accepted that they're actually in a relegation battle. And I think they have as well, because there was they put out a statement which basically says that they've had to now shift their aspirations from returning immediately to the Premiership to ensuring that they're a Scottish Championship club next year. Because I don't know what would happen to them if they went down. I mean, they've got the means to come straight back up again, but people thought that from the Premiership, to be fair. So who knows? But it's a really bizarre situation because you don't see this kind of thing too often, and it seems as though behind the scenes the club's just maybe a wee bit of a riot. But yeah, Arbroath. I will sum this up by saying I have now accepted that Ross County are in a relegation battle, and I think Arbroath are going to finish in the top four. I didn't before. I thought at some point they would go on a poor run of form. I now think they'll finish maybe third or fourth. I don't think they'll finish second, to be honest with you, but I think they'll finish third or fourth, which would be utterly ridiculous. Now, I know that Arbroath are like the model of a part-time club, and I know that they're able to attract the very best part-time players imaginable. But they're still doing an unbelievable job of going out there, playing some cracking football, and just piling up result after result. It's very, very impressive.
Yeah,
I,
definitely.
it is definitely, if you're a part-time club, Arbroath, it's like they've been in the Championship for a good few years before their last relegation, which I had a look and they got 23 points. I thought it was 32. No, I just got the numbers mixed up. I forgot they were utterly terrible that season.
Yeah.
But it's like they've bounced straight back up, and boy, have they bounced straight back up with style. Ross County, meanwhile, like you say about their shifting ambitions and that squad, I think the only older team in the league might be Rafe. I think they've got the second oldest squad in the league, it's like this week they did sign Jack Wells Morrison, who's 21. He's been on trial at the club, having left Crystal Palace, so seems maybe chucking some younger players in might be what fixes their issue, because like you say, it's like they're just a bit slow and easy to play through. So maybe he's got a bit of pace that can elevate them somewhat, because my God, that team is not doing it right now, are they?
Absolutely not. Did you see the photo of Declan Gallagher? I think it was at full time as well as in the stands, like trying to calm down fans. So
That's what we like to see. That's when you know a club's really in trouble.
yes,
He was also arguing with fans on TikTok or something as well, was he not?
It's like someone had obviously messaged him something on Instagram, and then he's ended up being in the back and forth. And it's like, on the one hand, you're like, you shouldn't really be DMing abuse players. That's taking it a bit too far. But also, if you're a professional footballer, don't reply to them, because that's what they want. They want like the replies and then post all
It's like
that.
that.
And be like,
It's like
he's rattled, all that sort of stuff.
Like the scene from Limmy, you've got to give him that. He got a reaction out of you. You played exactly into his hands. It's very much like that. There were some quotes as well from Roy McGregor, by the way. I don't know if you saw these, where he was saying like that he doesn't think that major surgery is needed, but they're going to kind of augment the group, whatever that means. If he doesn't think major surgery is needed, then they're actually going to finish 10th.
I was going to say, it's like they're 5 points off both Edge and Queen's Park now. And granted, they have that game in hand, but it's like if Queen's Park and County are going in the way that they're going, then thrice above. Like it could be worse. Especially it's like it's like Adria. They're gonna pick up more points. And it's like that county team just don't look like anything. It's like they've only got 2 wins and 6 draws. They've got 10 losses. They've got the worst defense in the league by quite a bit. Adria have the second worst defense at 29 goals conceded. County have conceded 36. So it's very bad up in the Highlands. But we move on to the final game, and that is, of course, Partick against Reef. Reef enjoying an unbeaten start to the Dougie Emery era, beating Ross County 6-0 the previous week. Thistle, meanwhile, coming off a defeat away to Arbroath. Now, this, despite it being 0-0, there's definitely a fair amount to talk about with this one, because I would say up until trying to think, it was about the 35th minute, I think, roughly, that Paul Hanlon ended up injured due to a head knock. And I would say Reef were the better team up until that point. It wasn't like the St Johnstone game where it's just like we'll sit back and frustrate them. No, we really went at it, which was encouraging to see. But then it's like after that, we sort of lost the sort of edge we had because we had to move Doherty from midfield into centre back. We sort of lost that edge we had there. But second half is where it gets interesting, because it just turns into a very scrappy game. And welcome to refwatch. We're back. It's been a while. So we start off with a Rami. That is which it kicks off because Tony Watt's on the ball, and Ross Matthews does his weird scissor movement and wins the ball, but from behind. But then I think it's Mullen who gets onto the ball, and then Ocean Smith comes flying in, and it's a bit of a high tackle, and he just connects. It all goes on. It goes into Mullen, and it just kicks off. Big Rami and all that sort of stuff, and I think Scott Brown got a booking for mouthing off at the ref, which is weird because he's the captain, and it's kind of his responsibility to talk to the ref. He might have said something that upset the ref, but it's like, considering how this goes, we'll get into that. Tony Watt, of course, being Tony Watt, he gets booked for him like pushing players about. Josh Mullen gets booked for pushing players about, and Ocean Smith, despite also having a high tackle and then pushing players out in the Rami, it's only a booking. It's like the tackle itself. There is an argument for possibly a red card, but it's like at a minimum it's very much a booking, and it's like sometimes you have seen refs. If it's 2 crimes and very short incidents, then they will do like booking for the first one, booking for the second one, away you go. So, Smith could be considered lucky to still be on the pitch. Then Josh Mullen gets himself sent off. Like 5 minutes later, it's like he's just gone flying in. I think the Partick boy was thinking of possibly faked a punt up the park and just sort of like turned his body. Mullins caught him, and considering he's just been involved in a Rami, ref's gonna second booking, send him off, and it's really silly. It's like Dougie Emery didn't even defend it. He was just like someone of Josh Mullins' experience should be doing better, should know better, which I would agree with. And then there was also Dan O'Reilly. Dan O'Reilly got booked early on in the second half because he played out a pass, but then he went, but it's like the foot that played the pass went studs up into the side of McMullen's leg, like just above the ankle, and he got a booking for that, which is a weird one. It's a bit harsh, but you can argue endangering the opponent. And then not long after, Josh Mullins just been sent off for a second booking. Easton goes down having been hit in the face by O'Reilly. and then there's no card, and you're just like, well, what the fuck? So after that sort of very scrappy 20-minute period, it just sort of settled down. Thistle had a few half chances, but it was like, aside from a free kick right at the death, I didn't feel like Thistle was scoring. Kieran, your thoughts on the game from your end?
I think you've pretty much nailed it on the head. Pretty much, as you said, very scrappy game. I felt personally, from a Thistle point of view, it was just your typical match against a two-game side. Just pretty stuffy, difficult to break down. I felt Rafe did play well in the first, as you said, the first 35 minutes or something like that. First 35 minutes of the first half. Without really, not saying he didn't cause us too much bother, but without any real clear cut chances. You didn't let us play football the way we're kind of used to in these past couple of few weeks, despite our wobbles that we've had. But I think the referee just, as well as that, I think he just ruined the game. Um, the way he handled it, there was obviously on both sides there was decisions that got wrong, and I felt it was just constantly stop start. And the setting jail for Josh Millen, I think that is a setting jail. I think even you said you can't really defend that. But I think it was just pretty much it's just one of the ones. It was pretty scrappy. It was, again, like, I'll take the clean sheet sort of thing. You can't really moan about a clean sheet. But I would have liked us to create a lot more chances, especially when we had the man advantage. I would have liked us to seen create more and kind of take advantage of that, but ultimately didn't, and that's credit to Emery. I think. I think he's kind of shored up your defence. I think you were at the start of the season or kind of midway part of this season. You were conceding goals like nobody's business and conceding silly goals and that as well. But I think he's kind of shored that up. Shall we say so? I good point on the road for Rafe. You could say probably more points drop for us. But it's just one of the ones we've got to take on the chin. If that's the point of view, just got to take on the chin. You're going to get games like these. But I take the clean sheet. But that was pretty much it. Apart from that.
I mind saying it to you before the game when we were in the pub, saying it's just like I would happily take a draw because it's like with this result now, it's like our last 3 games away from home have finished 0-0, but that was away to Arbroath, which, as we know, very difficult. Then away to St Johnstone, who are flying at the top of the league, and then away to Partick Thistle. So that's it's like the top 3 and arguably 3 of the toughest away games in the league that we've come away with 3 clean sheets in a row. Under Embry, I think we've played 5 games now and we've got 4 clean sheets. The only team to score against us is Aki's in the Challenge Cup, and again the caveat of it's a Challenge Cup. So it'd be interesting to see. It's like now we've got a run of fixtures that isn't the top 3. It's like we got Dunfermline at home, then oh god, Airdrie away. Fuck, that's never mind. Ignore everything I've just said. We've got a terrible record at Airdrie, but it's like with the top 3 out the way away from home. It is a promising start. Especially with how we were playing up until Hanlon's injury, which, by the way, it has been confirmed that he is fine. So, I think it wasn't like a concussion check or anything like that. It was actually like his cheek/jawbone sort of area. He was found to be fine, so he should be in for the derby at the weekend. So that's promising. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes, especially with January coming up. Wondering who Emery will look to bring in. He might. I'm not sure how Robbie Muirhead's getting on at Livingston, but it's like having him in this team with Emery would be a good laugh after all I've said about him. But Enzo, your thoughts on this one?
I don't really. I mean, you two were both at the game, obviously, so there's not a whole lot that I can say that you haven't already talked about. I did think this would finish in a draw, a relatively low-scoring game. I mean, obviously, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I think that I suppose the question for me, not only because we obviously play you guys on Saturday, Kieran, but
Aye.
I mean, it's a couple of results in a row where I suppose you're probably slightly disappointed. Is it just
Mhm.
a wee bump in the road, you reckon, or any concern about maybe the because obviously you get before that you were on a ridiculous run of form.
Uh-huh.
Any sort of concern that maybe that was unsustainable, or
I think we're just kind of viewing it as a kind of bump in the road, so
yeah,
to speak. There's not really any major real concerns. Maybe teams have started to find us out a wee bit. But saying that, I think for me, I'm just treating it, taking each week as it comes,
aye,
rather than kind of not getting ahead of myself. You know what I mean?
that's fair
As
enough.
good as the position we've been in, and the position we're still in, I would have like snapped your hand off for it. Especially what happened in the summer and all that kind of stuff. So I'll take it, but at the same time, I think now I kind of alluded to it earlier on in the episode. I'm starting to kind of look behind my shoulder now because Arbroath are now snapping at our heels. They're only 4 points behind us. Um, so I would like to get back to winning ways fast. I think that's my main concern as we're starting to drop quite a few points now, especially when we're in a title race. You don't have space to do that. You don't have time to do that if you're wanting to mount a title challenge. Um, but I think for me personally as well, I'll just see what happens in January. Take what happens in January, see what happens in the window. If we bring MD in, if we lose a couple of players, if we lose a player or whatever, I just take it by year. But next on Saturday, I think hopefully I would expect us to get back to winning ways. But usually on a decent, I would expect you to obviously be up for it as well.
I mean,
You've just got
I think I don't think I think it's we've not won in 13, or sorry, 11, 13 if you include the playoffs we played in a few years ago,
aye.
games against this. So there's been a couple of cup games in there as well. I know we won one of them
Mhm.
on penalties, but 13 league or playoff games. And I think we've lost 10 and drawn 3 of them. So
Aye.
honestly, my mindset is simply you get, I mean, flukes happen. You need to get lucky at some point. Something has to
Aye, definitely.
at some point.
I think you've picked fair Queens. If you're fair Queens Park point of view, I think you're playing us at a good time. To be honest, we've kind of started to stumble a wee bit. We've started to have a wee bit of a wobble. I think if we were when you played us in Bend, I think it was like last month or something like that when we played you, and we beat you 5-0, and we were on a bit of a run then. You probably couldn't have picked a worse time to play us. But I think now you've probably got us at a good time. But we'll wait and see what happens. Obviously, history kind of speaks for itself. We've obviously got a really good record against you. But it's just one of the ones. Honestly, I would expect us to win on Saturday. But whether that happens or not, it's a different story.
Jennifer, it's at Leicester Hampden, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say because are Thistle unbeaten at home this season? I think I'd seen something about them either being unbeaten at home this season, aside from the game against Celtic, obviously, or they're on a really long unbeaten home run at least. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah, we are in
not
the
bad.
league anyway. Definitely. I think in the league, I think the last time we lost at home, I think it might have been Hamilton. And I think it was the start.
It
I
was
think
like
it was the beginning
April.
of April.
And at the same time,
it was like just before they got their points deduction.
Aye.
At the same time, Kieran, I believe you haven't actually won an away league game since you last played us at Leicester-Hampton in September.
Aye, I think you're right.
Very polarizing types of full.
Aye, that's us getting pumped 3-0 on Saturday then.
Oh god, I don't think we'd hear the end of it from Enzo. Oh, well, I think
I would give up football altogether if Queen's Park end up beating us 3-0 on Saturday.
Look, I mean, I still turned up to host a podcast when Queens beat us, so I'm sure.
I'm not saying anything until it actually happens. I'm gonna get ahead of myself.
I love how it's like you're the one who's won. You just won 3-0, and you're of the three of us probably still the one with the least amount of hope going into
There's reason for that. There's reason for that. I've explained the reasons for that.
There is a whole season. There's a whole calendar year at least.
Or 13 games against this one.
Aye. But aye, so that's all of the past week's games. It's not really been any news actually since those games happened. So quickly go through the league table. St Johnstone, top of the league still, now on 41 points and a goal difference of 25. They're the only team in double digits when it comes to goal difference somehow. Positive goal difference, that is. Partick Thistle, they remain second on 36 points. Arbroath, again, remain third, 32 points. Erin fourth on 27 points. Reef are now up to fifth on 24 points. 1 point ahead of Dunfermline. Natural order has been resumed, which is always lovely to see. Greenock Morton, meanwhile, they're on 21 points in seventh. Queen's Park and Edgery are both on 17 points, but Queen's Park ahead on goal difference. They're on -9, Edgery -13. And still rock bottom with 12 points from 18 games and a -18 goal difference. It is Ross County. But moving on to the weekend's fixtures. I find it weird. This is a quick question. Has Boxing Day fixtures been a thing here? Because I know they're a thing in England, but I don't know why. But I feel like I remember there being Boxing Day, or is it just always a following Saturday?
No, I don't think. Didn't there used to be games in like the 2nd of January or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
That used to be
2nd of January. Yeah, that's what it was, because it was like we'd have the 2nd of January games because that's when we had the bank holiday.
It's a bank holiday. That's right. It's a bank holiday in Scotland.
Aye, like we'd always have them. Do we actually have games? No, all of them are third because
we
that's
do.
All on the third.
Aye.
It's like it used to. I remember it being New Year's derbies. Really, that's what would always happen. But so Saturday's fixtures are Ross County at home to St Johnstone. Oh God, I can only imagine what the scoreline for that one could be. As we have discussed in depth, Queen's Park play against Partick Thistle. I think we've got your opinions on that one. Arbroath, meanwhile, are at home to Airdrie. That one's possibly an interesting one. Like we say, Arbroath have a very good home record, and it'd be interesting to see how Airdrie come back off that 3-0 defeat. It's like Airdrie did actually beat Arbroath a few weeks back. It was sort of start of the ATS era. Morton are at home to Ayr. That just sounds dreadful. That sounds dreadful, going to Capello just after Christmas. And of course, the big one, Raith Rovers against Dunfermline, and you are damn right I am looking forward to this. Just please, for the love of God, just win. That's all I care about.
I'm just
minimum, don't lose.
I'm just questioning you defining that as the big one, but I suppose I'll let you have it. Wraith should be favourites for it, but you never know with these games.
Glasgow Derby versus Fife Derby.
Well, I was mainly referring to this. So it's in Johnstone, Ross County. I know that in theory that should be a huge game, but obviously,
Oh yeah, it's like that one. It's like that should have. It's like when making the fixtures, or just being like, right, Ross County against St Johnstone. That'll be the 2 title fight.
Yeah.
Queens Park against Thistle, Glasgow Derby, Arbroath against Edgery. Fuck it, relegation scrap. Morton against Ayr. No one cares. Fife Derby, chuck that in. But so a possibly interesting. Well, hopefully good weekend of football coming up next week. Hopefully we'll be sober enough to do a podcast. We're in that festive period where there's days just disappear into a depth of having too much fun. Hopefully I have too much fun on Saturday, and hopefully you do too. As you know, it's end of this episode, last one before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, fuck the powers, bye for now.
Catch you after. Have a good one.
Yes.